Hello and welcome to the Woman of Proverbs Wisdom Clinic, where tonight we are discussing part 2 of the 3 phases of health. And I have here with me, as always, yours truly, international herbalist, holistic, and wellness coach, Sharmane Harrison. And she is going to continue with us in sharing with us the importance of these 3 phases of health. So I don't know about you, but I'm excited. I've been anticipating this day because I am learning in my own personal growth how important it is to take care of yourself so that you can accomplish the things that God has set out for you to accomplish. And you can't do it if you're not in the right mindset and if you don't have the strength to do it. So, welcome again to the Wisdom Clinic. Sharmane Harrison, how are you, Sharmane?
Hey, I am doing well. How are you?
I am wonderful. I always get excited when you come because you always share so much information with us that literally transforms our life. And we appreciate you coming and being consistent every Tuesday to be able to share with us your expertise and knowledge about health. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and start and introduce yourself and what you do. And we are going to go from there.
Oh, thank you for having me. Like I always say, you guys, if you're here, it's because you are supposed to be here. You're supposed to
Mhm.
receive this information. So, just come on and receive it. Make sure you have a pen and paper or something to write on or something to write with because I do give a lot of information. So,
Yes.
but it is all things that you can implement slowly and step by step. And so it's not overwhelming. So basically what I do, I'm an international herbalist and holistic health and wellness coach. I teach people all over the world how to naturally detox their bodies using nothing but just nature, literally like herbs and things in your backyard and fruit and vegetables and certain things like that in order to save money on medical expenses, in order
Mhm.
to get kind of out of a diet mindset and into an actual lifestyle change, in order to break cycles of generational illnesses, and also just to upgrade your overall health and wellness and to feel good and to look good and things like that. So that's what I do. Also last week we did speak about the important aspects of sustaining health. I spoke about how a lot of times, like, we go through these phases. The phases that we go through is a cleansing phase, a detoxing phase, and a repairing phase. Now, a lot of people, they just really don't, get the some of these things right. The second phase of detoxing, that's one of the most important. A lot of people just don't get that right. And then also since they don't get number two right, they never make it to the actual repairing phase, which is super important. I talk about how last week I spoke about how if you're a smoker and you've been smoking for 20 years and then you stop smoking, guess what? Your lungs are still damaged. So they're still going to have issues. Nobody thinks to repair their lungs. And if they do think about repair, they think of pharmaceutical medications, which
Mhm.
again, they do serve its purpose
Mhm.
for the moment. But I'm speaking on a long term. You don't want to have to rely on something that's going to damage your internals long term. So you want to
Mhm.
rely on more of a natural route. And that's kind of where I come in at. And I help you go through these 3 phases to
Mhm.
achieve your results. So definitely. So
Yes.
um, if you don't go through that process of basically releasing the waste, the parasites, the toxins that are in the body, and you don't go through that process of repairing the organs that have been damaged again, then you're going to kind of continue on a cycle of like a hamster wheel. Basically,
Mhm.
you're going to keep getting to a point where you're unhealthy, and then you become symptom free, and then you're going to think you're good to go, and then you just kind of want to go back to what you were doing before. And we don't want that. We want it to be an actual lifestyle change. So that's
Mhm.
one of the biggest reasons I don't do diets. I focus on a lifestyle change. I focus on those people that know that nothing is a quick fix and that really want to dedicate their time to, just kind of, like I said, just turn it into a lifestyle, but they don't know where to begin because a lot of people just don't know where to begin. They don't understand the information. They don't understand how their body works. It's a lot of things that they don't understand. So when I come in, I kind of just help you dissect through that one phase at a time.
Do
So
you
that's
think
one of
is
the
do you think is that people don't understand because most of the emphasis because of all the commercials and things that are going on, there's so much emphasis on diet. And to the point to where most people look at diet as a lifestyle instead of looking at because when you think of the word diet, it means something you're taking away and something that you're exchanging for us in a form of a supplement or something. And so most people think, well, if I'm taking a supplement, then that will help me change my lifestyle because then I can it'll shift my desire to eat sugar or shift my desire to do this while I still get the quick fix.
Right, right. And like you said, exactly. They look at it like, it's a quick fix because I had a video on that too when I was speaking to you about how the diet mindset,
Mm,
people have, but when you think of a diet, who really wants to do a diet?
mm,
When you that's a social stigma. Who really wants to do on a diet? When people speak about diet, they're not like, woo, I'm gonna use this diet to reverse my diabetes. They're more like, man, I gotta go on this diet. I gotta get ready for this, this trip. I gotta do this diet real quick. It's
like a
nothing
false
that
discipline. It's like
exciting.
a false discipline.
Right, right. So
Mhm.
I despise the word diet. I do not use the word diet. I'm like, you guys, you have to focus on a lifestyle change because that's the only way you're really going to achieve long-term results. Because when you think about diet, you already put in your head that you're trying to find a finish line. So
Mm, that's
yeah,
good.
it's temporary.
That's
Yeah, so
good.
definitely. But
And I
yes,
think too, social media, I think television and media has a lot to do with our perception and how we see diets. Because you don't see a lot of people talking about lifestyle because nobody wants to put in the work to do lifestyle. Everybody wants do it now, fix me now. It take you years and years for you to get to that point to where you look a certain way or feel a certain way. So it's like, okay, yeah, fix me now. So
right, right.
people think diet means transformation immediately. And you do have some temporary fixes, but they're not long term, right?
Right, exactly. Like I was telling people, I was like, when I shared that I lost 30 pounds in about 30 days, it's true, I did, but the physical transformation, but in order to sustain those results, you have to have a mental transformation. And I go deeper into that. And that's why I made a two-part, series for this, because even though those three things are super important, there's actually a process that you have to go to prior to going through the cleansing and the detoxing and the repairing. And basically, that is that mental, that mindset, that mental process that you have to, that you definitely have to go through. And you can apply this to the repairing, the cleansing, the detoxing. You can apply that too when you think of a mindset, sort of. And I'm going to break that down. So, one of the things I want you to do is kind of think about your childhood. Think about those things that you were picked on, like, as a child. Like,
Mhm.
I know for me, I got picked on about having a big forehead, stuff
Oh,
like that.
I know that story all too well.
Yeah, how little kids, got the five head and all this. I got picked on for a lot of stuff when I was younger, and that just carried on, for some years. But basically saying, when you hear something, long term, you definitely begin to believe it. You get to a point where it kind of just affects you
Mhm,
emotionally and
mhm,
mentally. So that to the point where it kind of becomes programmed into you. So if you hear you're stupid, your whole life, oh, you've always been ditzy, you've always been this, you've always been that. You hear your friends' families, you've always been mean, she always been fat, she always been ugly, just all of this negativity, and when you constantly hear stuff like that, you actually take that into your adulthood. And what happens is you become that person that says, well, I've
mhm.
always been like this. You
Mm,
you become that person that you're just like, you kind of just kind of take pride in, and well, I've been like this and I've always been told this, and it's just like, so you have
mhm,
to definitely go through a process where you're kind of detox your
mhm,
mindset out of that you're not good enough.
mm,
So that's super important because, like, when you're a child, you go from these phrases again bothering to you to an adult who becomes comfortable and
mhm,
believing that, and you kind of start wearing that as a badge of like honor.
mm. I
You kind of
agree.
right those beliefs as a
Mhm,
badge of honor because you're convincing yourself of these limited beliefs, and you start projecting, or you become one of those people that start projecting their fears onto other people. Especially
Parents do that. Parents have
men.
a
Mhm.
habit of
Conflict.
projecting their fears. If I've never done it, no, of course you can't do it. Because I was never able to do it. And if you come from me and you're a part of my genealogy, I then that means you can't do it. I hate that. As a
Exactly.
kid, I used to, oh my God, I used to hate that. When people used to tell me that I couldn't do something, I'll do it. I'll go and work 10 times harder to prove to you just the fact that I can. Because to
Right.
me, that limiting, but even though, and I don't even think that at the time that us as parents, or just different adults, you don't really realize it because different generations, the language barrier is different, how they talk and spoke, and culture has a lot to do with it. So when you got parents that are constantly telling you, you this, you stupid, you this, you that, you start to eventually, you might laugh it off as a kid, but then there's those quiet moments where that stuff starts to form, it starts to become a part of your thinking, and then you don't even realize you get to work in a regular job, and all of a sudden somebody says the exact same thing, and it triggers something on the inside of you, and all of a sudden you start to feel like you start to take ownership and start to feel like that's what you really are.
Exactly, exactly. Hit the nail on the head. Exactly. Definitely. I know two ways to get rid of those negative thoughts because and I go deeper into this, but you have to think when you're a child, that person is in a place of power. Your parents, they're in a
Mm.
place of
Mhm.
power, they're in a
Mhm.
place of authority. That's the person
Absolutely.
that's your person. So
Mhm.
whatever they say is going to stick in you.
Mhm.
And like you said, when you hear it at home, you turn around, you hear it at school, you turn around, you hear it at work, and it just comes. And then, instead of it hurting your feelings when you're a child, you start to build this thing where you're just like, well, I'm gonna wear it as a badge of honor.
Mhm.
If I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be the baddest one. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be, and it
Mm.
just kind of gets to a point. It's like, really? But two powerful ways to get rid of those negative self thoughts that I actually apply to myself on a day to day basis is you have to listen to a different tune daily. So
Mm.
just as your parents and as a child, just as your parents sat around and said this, or you
Mm.
have friends that say this, or siblings, because siblings can be harsh too. Has to that say these things. You have to listen to a different tune because our environment plays a huge role. Again, the school,
Wow.
the household, it starts in the household. Then you got to go to
Right.
school. Then you have friends, then the workplace, and the music.
Mhm.
Music is super powerful. I
It
know
is.
that for
It
me,
is.
I love music, but
Mhm.
I was at a space one time where all I would listen to was Trina and this because when I was 18, I grew up in Florida, so it was a lot of Trina and Trick Dad and all that stuff.
Oh
But
yeah.
so every time I'm telling myself I'm the baddest this, I'm the baddest that, I'm the baddest. I'm calling myself out
Mhm.
every name in the book, and
Mhm.
that became a part of who I was. That
Mhm.
that language, that those feelings became a part of who I was.
Mm.
So music is super powerful. So you
Yeah.
have to be careful to what you're listening to on a day-to-day basis. Also, you want to make sure, like, some things that help me is like listening to motivational audio,
Mm.
in the
Yeah.
day-to-day, listening to
Yeah.
changing up the tune,
Yes.
things like that. So that's one big way, something that I implement. And then just speaking life over yourself. That's number two, speaking life over yourself, because our mind drives our body.
Right.
I know I had to get to a point where you stare in the mirror. You stare in the mirror and you say
Mhm.
positive affirmations every day.
Right.
And it's gonna be weird at first because you're gonna be like, oh, what? But you have to,
Right.
self-speech is so important. It's so important. Just speaking life over yourself, saying that you can, saying that getting out of that victim mindset. It's, for example, if you're trying to lose weight, but you're telling yourself, well, I'm not ready to do it. I'm not ready. I haven't gotten there yet. It's super powerful what you're telling yourself on a day-to-day
Because
basis.
I think too, to add to what you're saying, I think too is because whatever you repeat over and over again in your mind goes into your conscience, it goes into your conscious mind, and if it's done repeatedly begins to go deeper into your subconscious, and anything that's in your subconscious mind becomes like second nature. So it's like what happens is we're always contending, we're always there's a whole bunch of things out there always contending for the mind, the soul of a man, which is the mind, will, and emotions. So there's always something that's contending for your soul, your mind. Your soul is made up of your mind, will, and emotion. So when you are constantly doing affirmations day to day, you're convincing you're constantly just repeat, just taking the initiative to say to constantly embed it a new, like you said, a new tune into your subconscious mind, so that when that thought comes up, because the Bible tells us to cast down every imagination and every high thing that exalts itself above the knowledge of him. So when we're going through different things, most of people don't realize that self-esteem is low. Self-esteem comes from not what people necessarily say to you, is you repeating to yourself what other people have said to you. You know,
Exactly.
so when you're constantly repeating things that are, when you're changing the tune, because in order to get rid of a certain mindset, you have to change it with something else. You have to change it with a new thought. You can't get rid of thoughts by just saying be gone. you know
Right.
Thoughts
Right.
have to be replaced with new thoughts. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm just always going to be heavy, I'm never going to look like this, though you don't always have to express, verbalize, and add power to everything that you feel, because your words are containers of power. So when you start to say I don't look or I don't feel, then you give legs for that thing to embed into your subconscious mind. And so now, even though now you have to reprogram the way you think. Our minds are like computers. We have to reprogram how we view ourselves, how we view, and and we have to be more, you have to be the one to speak more to yourself than somebody else. Because trust me, people are always going to be trying to say things, and whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, they're always going to be trying to contend for your heart, contend for your soul. And you have to be the gatekeeper, and you have to be able to say, nope, I can't let you say. I'll tell people in a minute, Charmaine, you can't speak to you. No, you can't speak to my children like that. You can't speak to me like that. Because, and you don't have to be aggressive about it. You just have to be firm about it. And you have to have a conviction behind what you feel. No, you can't. You can't talk to me like that, because I can't allow you to. Because if I let you say that to me repeatedly, I've done too much work to change my mind. I've done too much work to become the person that I am. I can't let you interfere with your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And those, the two examples that I gave, those two are, like I said, one of the most powerful ways. In my course, I give you a bunch of different ways to actually, go about that. But yeah, like you said, I definitely agree. And if you get that part of the mindset practicing, because it's a practice. It's not like you
It
wake up one
is.
day and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and the world comes crashing down around you. You don't know how to handle it. It's a practice. It's a habit. It's just
It
something that
is.
you have to do. I know for me, if I wake up and I'm a little groggy or something, guess what I do? Nope, I stop it. I acknowledge that. You got an attitude, hold on. And I go on YouTube and I listen to some motivational music or
Hmm.
audio or something to
Hmm.
catch that thought. Because what's going to
Right.
happen is you're going to go through a trickle effect where you complain when you woke up. So now the rest of your day, that you set the tone for the rest of your day because you didn't wake up with
Hmm.
gratitude.
Hmm.
So when I catch those dots, I'm like, nope. So you gotta catch it and listen to something else, even if you don't feel like it. I don't care if you feel like it or not. Put something on, something that's gonna kind of, intervene with that negative thought. So that's super powerful. I definitely, challenge you guys that's viewing to do it, to do that. Listen to motivational audios, say positive affirmations, things like that, just day in and day out, because those are the things that's going to help you on your journey. And if you get that part down packed, now it'll make it easier for you to walk away from those toxic people, because you
Hmm.
start realizing your self-worth.
Hmm.
So the first, when I talk about mindset and things like that, that's more of a cleansing phase, that you're cleansing that's more of a cleansing phase. Now I'm going to get into detoxing from people. So Miss Nadira, what word comes to mind when you hear the word toxic?
When I hear toxic, I think of poison. I think of poison mainly. That's the strongest word that comes to me. Poison.
Right. So abusive, narcissistic, poison, harmful,
Hmm.
waste, dangerous, chemicals, things like that. That's basically the definition of toxic. So if you went to your favorite restaurant, right? and they had a large, just a red X over on the menu that said toxic. Would you consume the food at the restaurant?
Absolutely not.
So exactly. So when it comes to people, why is it we often allow others to pour
Mm.
toxic behavior into us?
Mm.
I have to, I always ask people that, like, why do you allow others to pour? Because it gets to a point where it's just like you got to kind of think, because
Mm.
stress kills, literally.
Oh my
Stress
gosh.
stress
Does
kills.
it?
Stress causes illnesses. Stress is
Wow.
slow and deadly. Stress is toxic. It's like a snake. You just have to be careful of that
Wow.
poison that you allow in your life. Have you? Yeah. So definitely,
Absolutely.
I definitely let people know that it is super important, because, like I said, I have my own story where at one point I allowed so many people to say things about me because that's what I believed about myself.
Mhm.
Like I said, it came from music. It came from what I was telling myself, that it was okay to call me out my name.
Right.
It's okay to say B because of the music. That's a good thing. In the music industry, it's like, oh, I'm the baddest B. I'm the bad. So that became a part of my environment. So I let other people do it too.
I
When I
think
was
there's
younger.
a I think there's a twofold part to that, because the practice of being able to listen to music and be able to have the power, realize you have the power to see yourself as the person that's displaying the music, is powerful, and should bring you a sort of awareness to make you understand that if you see yourself as that bad powerful B, then you should be able to see yourself at you should be able to have those same boundaries when it comes to people, because I think sometimes the obligation to please, the
Mhm.
obligation to not hurt people's feelings, the
Exactly.
obligation, we put other people's feelings above what's best for us, and then what happens is we die emotionally, because we wind up tolerating, which becomes like poison to us. Because if somebody is saying something or doing something that is hurting you and you don't say anything, I don't know anybody that's being stabbed that don't say, "Ow, stop," if they keep stabbing you. So I think we get like that. I think when the poison has settled, that's when it becomes difficult to stop. Because think about it, when you're sick and you have poison in your body, it's hard for you, your defense mechanism is down, so you don't fight as hard, even though it might hurt. You don't have the physical or emotional strength, and that's why you have to do the work. Because if you dig, sometimes the first step is just getting away from people that make you that are constantly giving you poison, injecting you with poison. It's like a heroin addict. If you take heroin or any type of drugs, the more people are constantly pumping you with it, you lose energy, you lose the
Exactly.
ability to your defense goes down, and you have to, and then it's not until you have to detox and literally remove yourself from the presence of that person or group of people, that you start to gain a little bit of strength to place some boundaries around you. And it's the same way, you get away from certain people in order to have the strength to create that boundary. And it's hard when you grow up, especially if you grow up in a neighborhood where everybody is toxic, everybody is negative. You really have to have outside exposure.
Environment.
You have to, because you can not everybody can change their environment, but you can change the way you think. And the only
Mhm.
way you can do that is you have to expose yourself to something different.
Exactly. Definitely. Exactly. And that's definitely so important, when we're speaking of, like, stress and things like that. I definitely don't allow anyone to call me out my name, today, the
Mhm.
woman that I am today. But it's just the process of learning. If you don't want somebody else to call you that, don't call yourself that. Same in our community.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
don't allow other people to call us, the N word. I mean, to be 100% here,
Mhm.
but we call it,
Mhm.
we say it to each other because
Mhm.
it's okay when we say it to each other, but it's really not. Because if you don't want somebody to call you something, don't call each other it. Don't call yourself it.
Mhm.
That's super powerful. We can't expect change if we're not changing within, ourselves. So that's what
Mhm.
that boils down to, um
Mhm.
and then what, again, with stress, like, okay, so have you ever met one of those people that it feels like nothing bothers them?
Oh
Like
God.
they just say
Those are the scary
they,
ones, because I was that person. I know
it's
where you're going, because let me tell you something. Those are the most dangerous people, the ones who are secretly frustrated. They
Mm-hmm.
have explosions on the inside of them, and all it just they just ticking. And it just takes one explosion to just blow up. I know what you mean. I used to be that person.
Yes, and I was gonna say that same thing. Like I used to be, that person that just kind of hold everything because it's a double-edged sword. You have people that's they don't seem bothered, but it's really because I had to decipher the difference and within myself because I was like just hold everything in. But now I'm more like I'm just really not bothered. But that took practice. Those two powerful things that I talked about, that took practice.
Mhm.
I'm that, you wake up Monday morning, you go to work, and you got that one person that's just like, good morning, hi. You're just like, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. Why are you so happy? They feel like you should be mad too. Like, why are you not mad? It's Monday at 5 o'clock. I'm mad. You should be mad too. So it's definitely a double-edged sword when it comes to that. Because I know now that I'm that person that people deserve. Does anything bother you? Are you okay? And I'm just like, I'm good. And so I may
Mhm.
come off cold sometimes, but literally I had to train myself to be this
Mhm.
way. And it's not that I don't care, it's just because I became good at managing stress because
Mhm.
stress is going to happen.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
really
stress
good.
is definitely going to will happen, but you have to realize that you have the power to control your emotions, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the practice. And that's where I'm at. I'm at a place where someone could call me and be like, "This Sharmane," I'm like, "Oh, for real? Okay, yeah,
Managing stress, that's really good. That's powerful, Charmaine, because we all there's no way to avoid stress. We there's a lot of emphasis on reduce of getting rid of stress, but you can't really get rid of stress. You have to manage stress
yeah,
because stress has positives to it and it has negatives to it. Stress kind of sometimes, when you're managing your stress, when you get to the level where you're feeling overwhelmed, then that means you have not taken the time to care for things that need to be taken care of, and that's when it starts to be overwhelmed. And I think when you sit down and say, okay, this needs to be, when you are managing your responsibilities and your obligations with the right mindset, then stress, though you might still feel like, okay, this is a lot, you're able to manage it because of your perspective and how you view it. I know for me, with me, managing stress is I have to sometimes shut down just to be able to gather my thoughts. If I don't shut down to gather my thoughts, I don't care if it's obligations involved or not. I have to shut down to regroup. If I don't shut down to in group, then what happens is I'll internalize it, and that happened to me. Coming out of an abusive relationship, an abusive marriage for 15 years, and learning how to internalize everything. It was like almost like I was imploding. So even though I was frustrated because I was smiling on the outside, all you had to do is just say one thing to trigger me, and I was like, "Brr." I would just go off because I
right,
was allowing it to build up and implode. And then what I realized is that when I started to learn how to manage my emotions and deal with, because even though Charmaine and I are sharing with you ways to eliminate and detox, you still have to deal with the truth of the matter. It doesn't mean that you might need to detox people, and you may need to detox your emotions and stuff like that, but you have to still deal with the thing that's causing you to be poisoned. You have to cut the poison off at
yeah,
some point and deal with the reality of, no, this person is negative, they're not contributing to who I am, and they're making me struggle with my perspective of how I see myself. I can't talk to you every day. I'm sorry, I just can't.
there you go,
I can't
yep. And
talk
I
to you
talk about
every day.
that too. Yep.
There's some people that I call them 5-minute people, 10-minute people. I'm realizing that the more that you have to give, you can't give anybody more time than you give to yourself. And when you give time to yourself, then you have to take, if it's anything you need to manage, you manage the time that you give to people. So you're
Yeah.
not stressed. So if I know you're negative, I'm not talking to you for an hour.
Yeah.
Because now I can't let you insert poison into me. And then when we get off the phone, I'm mad and I'm
Right. Transfer of energy. Exactly. I do. I go up there. Yes, you should nail on the
yes,
head. Yes, definitely.
yes.
Yes, definitely. But you know what I realized, right? So, in my experience, stress comes from basically how we perceive the world. and how we
Mm.
allow others to affect us.
That's really good. Mm-hmm.
I have noticed that in my, and that's why now I'm to a point where I seem very unbothered by everything, because it's not, well, not seen, but most of the time I'm just like, okay, whatever. But it's just like it comes from how I perceive things, how my
Mm.
perspective has shifted. So for
Mm-hmm.
example, like, it's not, and it's not to, like you said, convincing yourself that everything is fine. That's a that's
Right.
different. That's different.
Ignoring. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So,
Yeah.
that's like you said, that's holding in the stress, but it basically comes from how you perceive the world and how you allow others to affect you.
Mm.
That's one of the things. Is like, for example, paying a bill, right? So you have two perceptions of that. So, oh, I can't get this bill is due on the 1st. It's the 29th. I don't got the money. Now you can either get hysterical and you can get stressed out and you can get depressed, like you didn't know it was gonna be due. And because I mean, like, I know things happen in life, but at the end of the day, like, you you being hysterical and causing all types of hormones and stuff to go off in your body and things like that, your heart starting to beat extra fast and you sweating, you can be hysterical. But what is that? Is the bill going to get paid by you doing that? It's
Mm-mm.
really not. And then you have the second perception that, like, how I take it, like I said, how can I'm more of a problem solver, and I understand everyone doesn't, think that way. The natural reaction if you can't pay a bill is to get hysterical, get stressed out, get depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of thinking like that, maybe you could go into how am I gonna make this money? Or
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to go about alleviating this situation? Maybe I have somebody I could call.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the bill, maybe you could call the business and
Mm-hmm.
negotiate something, or you can find a different business who won't charge you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have a supportive individual that you can call and ask. Like, you have to, instead of getting into panic mode, you have to stop and really, okay, if I do panic and I do these
Mm-hmm.
things, what's going to come out of it? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. You're going to make yourself sick. And if you do it enough, you're
That's
really
true.
going to make yourself sick. Because I've done it. I've
Good.
done it so many times. I spent my
That's
whole life
good.
like in survival mode, where I'm just, oh my God, oh my God. I was that person. I was
Mm-hmm.
that person who always was just panicking. So that's so important to understand. That the stress that you're causing yourself in that moment is not going to change the end result that you're going.
Mm.
Whatever you're going through in that moment. You know. So.
That's good. I did a post a couple of weeks ago, and I'm trying to find it where I said, don't wish for less problems, wish for more skill." Because what happens is we get so overwhelmed. It's just the
Right.
normal part of us. We get overwhelmed when challenges come and we don't have an answer, because we feel like if a challenge come, we should be able to answer, and you should be ready to answer. But if you're not ready to give an answer that they're prepared to receive, you have to be able to say to yourself, I remember earlier in my life, and things would not go the way I want to. I remember, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you this quick story. Okay.
Mhm.
So I went to school for skincare and became a licensed esthetician. And I
Mhm.
remember, being a single mom and having to raise my kids and having to provide. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, I have to take care of these kids. I'm a full-time entrepreneur. A full-time entrepreneur. How in the world am I gonna get over here and do this as a full-time entrepreneur? So I was scared. I was terrified. And then one day I said, you know what? I'm not going to allow fear to cause me. So I said, you know what? Instead of complaining about what I need to do, I'm just going to do the darn thing. And
Exactly.
I did it, and I was very creative. And the one thing I realized is that my creativity is my best asset. And so I started to create, appointments where I would go to different people's houses. I was doing, before we did email marketing, I was doing emails, going to events and collecting emails. And I had a goal, a financial goal of what I wanted to make, what I needed to make for that day to meet my needs. And I superseded that. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, I realized that sometimes we underestimate the things that, sometimes the things that we go through, it's like a double fold. We get to see what we're really made of. The Bible says if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is weak. So you find out when you go through things, where your strength truly lies at. And I remember that was my first start of entrepreneurship. And let me tell you, well, it wasn't my first start. It was my first start as a full-time entrepreneur. And when I tell you, I went hard selling my skincare business, selling my skincare and doing appointments. And I'm telling you, that was how I survived. And I realized that, when I made that comment, don't ask for when you have different trials and things that come in here. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Sometimes we just need more skill so that we can accommodate the area, bring value. Because if you don't have a certain level if you don't have a skill set, then it's hard for other people to see your value and what you have. So when you work on investing in you and your value, money is a direct exchange of value. People will pay you when they see there's value inside of you. Just like I remember Junior said that, people will pay you in direct proportion to the value that you bring to them. So when we figure out what our value is, don't complain about what you don't have. I don't have this, I don't have that. Okay, take inventory and say, okay, I need to have this. This is what I need to do. Okay, so let's make a plan to do an inventory on my skill set and see exactly what I can do to accommodate this.
Yes, exactly. That is an awesome point. Exactly. But I know, that you have those people out there that you, like you said, they kind of blame their environment. They're blaming, and a lot of people just have like distractions that they have to, just kind of let go of. Because I know, like, talk forward toxic people. I remember in my childhood, I used to get picked on, and I used to allow kids to pick on me. But I allowed them to pick on me because I was scared, or I just wanted to fit in. Or when I got older to like middle school, I just started joking myself. Whatever they would pick on me about, I would go to school and I was like, yeah, because my shoes is raggedy. And they would, ha 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 ha. That opened a whole door for me to allow toxic people to come in my life. That right there. It starts. That's where it all began. That I'm telling you, or like your family members. You have family members that may have narcissistic behaviors, and you often hear people say, "That's still your mom, that's still your dad, that's still your grandma." It took me literally 30 years. It took me 30 years and a child to understand that I did not have to allow certain behaviors in my life or energy into my environment that made me feel less than. It took me 30 years and a child. When I got to a point where I was just like, but I'm grown. Like, why you talk? Wait, this is how I talk to my daughter. Like, it just kind of clicks, and you get to a point where you just get tired. You're like, you know what? Yeah, we're not gonna have this anymore. We're not having it. And a lot of people struggle with that though, because they feel like, they become very dependent on that person. So, I've heard about creating, boundaries. People say you got to create boundaries. And, I saw a post on Facebook one day and it said, I would rather adjust my environment to your absence than create boundaries to accommodate your disrespect.
Oh, that's good. Oh, say that again. Say that again.
My perspective.
Say that again. That was good.
I would rather adjust my environment to your absence than create boundaries to accommodate your disrespect.
Lord have mercy, girl. That's a t-shirt, a cup. That's a meme. That's a hello.
Yes. So and let me break it down for those that don't, So exactly. So basically you guys imagine standing directly in front of somebody that's cussing you out. Okay. Imagine standing right in front. So then what you do, you're like, well, I don't have to take this. So you take 10 steps back from that person, just 10 steps, and you draw a line. Guess where that person's still at and what they're still doing? They're still right there, 10 steps away from you, and they're still cutting you out.
Wow, I love that. I love that.
So, I'm thinking about it like that, and I know detoxing from people is uncomfortable because we tend to form an emotional bondage to others, especially if they feel like that person holds some form of control over them. That's why it's so hard for
Mm.
kids to detox from their
Right,
parents.
right,
They
right.
they want to create those boundaries, and they still, because that person had that form of control over them, or an abusive woman in a woman in abusive relationship. A lot of people just, why don't you just walk away? But it's due to like fear or failure or dependency.
Mm-hmm.
You get to a certain point where it's just, and it's just like, we've all had, those moments where it was just hard
Mm-hmm.
to pull away from those toxic people. And that's a self-reflection moment, though. That's when you go through that, or you're going through it and things like that. That's why it's so important, like I said in the beginning, to actually get to a point where you understand your self-worth, to start practicing those habits. So you do find yourself in a situation, or before a situation happens or arises, you know how to transition yourself out of it, because you are
Mm.
worth more than how somebody's going to treat you.
So give us some examples of how to transition out of it. If somebody is working in a work environment where they can't really change, they have to be there, and they have people that are toxic and they can't really move their desk because they're assigned to be where they are. Give them some examples of how they can transition out.
I'm gonna do something better. I'm gonna give you my testimony.
Okay.
So I was in the military, and I was serving in the army, and I never wanted to join the military, but I did anyway. It was good for me, a good stepping stone.
Okay.
But I got to a point where I just hated it. Now, the army is not a job. The army is a whole contract. I couldn't just walk off and be like, I don't want to do this no more.
No, you can't.
So every day I got to a point where I was just kind of miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I did not want this to be my long term. I was like, you know what? I don't see myself here for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, you're crazy. You almost did 10. What do the other 10? What are you doing? And I'm just like, that my emotional well-being, that
Mm.
sense of self-awareness finally kicked in, because I felt like a robot. And
Mm.
I knew that it wasn't worth it. And everybody around me was like, you need to change. You need to change. You need to change.
Right. Well, it's amazing. We're going to give her a few seconds to come back. I know that. Okay.
Okay. You get to a point where you feel like you don't have any options.
Mm.
And that's so sad, because that's one of the things I constantly preach about. You have options.
Mm.
With my skin
Yes.
condition, doctors, you don't have, that's
Yes.
it, you just got to deal with it. You have to know that you have options, and
Mm.
you have to implement a plan. You might
Mm.
not can get out of it, especially if it's a job with contracting or something. You can't get out of it right then and there, but you have
Right.
to have set a plan for your future. Do something better. Do something that you want to work towards. I tell people
Mhm.
that all the time. So that's what I did. I was like, you know what? I have 2 years on my contract left. Let me start making a plan to transition.
Mm.
Let me start. And it's crazy, because just because you make a plan don't mean it's gonna follow through. Because I know I made a plan when I got out the military, and yeah, it's total opposite of what I'm doing now. But what I'm doing now is actually self-fulfilling. I love what
Mm.
I do now, versus me saying, oh well,
Right.
I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna do this. It doesn't happen like that all the time. But definitely make a plan, so you'll know what type of path, and then just you have to have take that leap of faith,
Mm.
because what's going to happen is you're going to stay at that job. I was getting sick left and right. I
Wow.
was sick 8 months out of the year, when I was every year
Eight
while I was serving.
months.
8 months out the year, I was constantly
Wow.
sick. I have people around me like, hey, I ain't never see what's wrong with her. I ain't never seen nobody go to the hospital so much. I was just constantly sick.
Oh my
Stress will do it
God.
to you. It will do it to
Yes.
you.
It's a
Yes.
it's a silent killer, especially among women, because we have because we internalize everything. We've been taught to be, watching our parents and stuff like that. You that superhero spirit. I can do all, be all, and do, and then what happens is and you have, even if you have to do it all and be it all, you still have to have moments where you have to take time to care for you, to impart in you, because after all, you don't get another body. I'm sorry, you don't get to sign up for a
Exactly.
new body unless you pay for it.
Exactly.
And even in
Yeah.
paying for a new body, there's something you can pay for the external. You can't pay for the things that cause your body to run.
Exactly. Exactly. That then that's the point. And especially when you have people toxic, you're in a toxic environment. So if we had all had a battery, I swear, if everybody had a battery attached to their hand right here, where we could see it every time we allowed someone to drain us, I promise
Mm.
half of us wouldn't be, in a situation
Mm.
that they're in, because you would see it.
Mm.
That's how I look at it. Like every time I come in contact with, every time I speak to somebody, I'm thinking about, that battery. Like, is this draining me or is this pouring into me? You know,
Mm.
so you got to think about it like that, because healing is uncomfortable, but it's necessary.
It is.
No one says it's gonna be rainbow and sunflowers, but as people, we get comfortable being in toxic situations. And again, that comes from being groomed by something as small as social media or music
Mhm,
or
mhm,
parents or
mhm.
environment and things like that. Being at peace in today's society is considered boring, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Because people are not used to, because we live in a society where everything is now, give it to me now, I want it now, I don't want to wait, give it to me now. And so what happens is we start to apply that mindset in all areas of our life. I don't want to wait in relationship, just give me what I want right now. I don't want to wait in line for my food, just give me what I want right now. I don't want to wait and put in the work to exercise and eat right. And no, just give me a shot in my stomach and just eliminate, I
right,
want to
right,
eliminate people. I just want to be able to have the ability to tell you all. And there are moments
right.
where you have to, I think basically the most important thing to know in the whole equation is you. You
Hmm.
have to be your first priority, and making sure, because if you allow people, if you allow anything to just happen to you, and you allow anybody into your space, and you don't set up boundaries for yourself, you are doing harm to yourself, not to them. Because guess what? They're going to create boundaries for them, and you
Yeah.
are not going to affect their life. Some people are good at letting you know real quick when they want to shut you off. And
Hmm.
I was the one, I was that type of person. I used to be unbalanced. And I
Yeah.
would I just didn't have any boundaries, because I just felt like I just want to be a good friend. I want to be a good wife. I want to be a
Hmm.
good girlfriend. And I just want to, and then I want to be a good worker. I want to be a good business person. I want to be a good Christian. And then you wind up burning yourself out at the expense of pleasing everybody else. And then you realize, wait a minute, hold up, who's really suffering here in the end, and so
Exactly.
you have to be able to have balance and be able to know when it's time to say. And it helps, because when you practice this, and this is what I'm learning about myself, the more practice, like you said, that you do it,
Yep.
then what happens is those toxic people either do two things: either they get away from you, or they stop talking,
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
or
So
they
how,
change.
those people that's always have to have drama around them. So
Yeah.
everybody know that one person who they always got a story about who said what they was gonna do, when it was gonna do it, all these things. Well, you want to stay away from those individuals. It's always some mess with them. But then they scream, "I want peace and quiet. I want peace." But then when peace comes, it's like it's uncomfortable for them because they're so
Hmm.
used to chaos. But you want to stay
Hmm.
away from them, those individuals. And at once upon a time, I was that individual, so I can speak
You know,
on
it's funny you said that, because I was just thinking that to myself. I was like, oh gosh, I was one
yeah.
of those at one point where
Hmm.
you know, you don't realize it's easy to look at the toxicity in everybody else, but it's hard to see the toxic stuff that in your own life. I started, as you were talking, I was like, man, Nadira, you were at a point where you were toxic. But I
Yeah.
think what helped me with the poison is that when you start tasting your own poison, it don't feel good.
Right.
You get around the right people that have a different mindset to you, then you realize that this poison doesn't taste that good. You know,
Right. It's
this poison.
conducive to your health. It definitely is. It's very conducive to your health. And another reason why
Absolutely.
it's so important is because you have to take a self accountability in your actions. Like you said, you just
Mhm.
got to take your self accountability. I know for me, like I said, I'm so peaceful now because I know how it is to live an extremely chaotic life.
Yeah.
Relationship, family, jobs, all of it. I used to
Mhm.
stay in some drama. I got stories for days. But I really did. It was
I
crazy.
lived a life of drama too, girl. I lived a life of drama. I was married to a man for 15 years and we was always at it fighting.
Right.
Like literally drama was our name. I don't think I realized it's funny because you would think during that time that I would be more, that I would be more and then be more peaceful. Now I am more outspoken now. And
Mm-hmm.
back then we were just always fighting, just head to toe, just going at it, throwing stuff at each other, cussing each other out. I remember I had such a toxic mouth, because I come from a family of cuss you outs,
Mm-hmm.
and so I remember in 1997, I believe it was, I was working at a job in Jacksonville, Florida, and I had such a toxic mouth. I would kill you with the words in my mouth. That's how bad it was
Mm-hmm.
because
Right.
I didn't know how to express myself without and helping you understand how I felt without making sure, because I come from a mama that will cuss you every which way. My mama created cuss words, okay?
Right.
And so I would be so mad. I remember one time I was arguing with my ex-husband, and I was at my job and I was working in a call center, right? You're gonna laugh at this, right? Y'all gonna get a kick out of this. So I remember we were working and I was upset at him. I don't even remember what the scenario was. I cussed him out so bad over the phone that one of the ladies who wind up, it's funny because her and I are real close. She was on the Sisterhood check-in broadcast. She said, Nadira, I never heard you talk like that. I was like, the Jersey came out of me. I was like, nigga, let me tell you one thing. And
Right.
you mother in a da da da, you can eat my da da da. I had a dirty mouth. And one day my supervisor sat me down and said, Nadira, because I was always quiet at work. She said, Nadira, I never heard you talk like that. And I was saying to myself, shoot, heck, I never even
Right. Holding it all in. That's what happened.
and
Holding
I
it in.
realized that I was angry at that point because I didn't know how to be able to say, okay, stop. This is bothering me. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to I didn't have strategies to deal with my frustration. So my way of dealing with my frustration from toxic people was to cuss you out. Because I felt a release. I mean, you do get a release when you cuss folk out. I mean, especially when you put emphasis on it. I mean, it's just to come out your core. You just be like,
And then
but
also, right,
but
from
I
your environment too.
realized,
Yeah.
yeah, I realized that it's almost like regurgitated poison, because then
Mm-hmm.
what happens is you're spewing poison, and I didn't want to be known as a woman that just pour poison on people, because even when you've got poison on the inside of you, it don't you could pour poison on people involuntarily that maybe never did anything to you because you're so used to spewing out poison. And I had to learn self-control. I had to learn boundaries. I had to heal. I had
Mm-hmm.
to change. I had to heal. And I had to, when I look at myself now, I've changed everything about who I am. I've changed my diet. I've changed the way I think, what I allow into my mind gate, into my ear gate. So now it has changed everything about me. So now my language is different because I've learned how to deal with my frustration. So now I'm a more fun type person to be around me. I'm more fun. At home is very peaceful. I have a very peaceful home. Besides my little girls, walking around and playing and stuff like that. For the most part, our house is peaceful because you are in control of your own environment. And if you want an
Exactly.
environment of poison, guess what? You're gonna,
Mm-hmm.
after a while, you're gonna get sick and tired.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened to me. I got to a point where I saw the effect it had on my body. Like when I
Mm.
would get upset, as soon as I would get upset, I would have a massive pain in my chest, right where my
Mm.
heart was located. If
Mm.
life humbled me so, that was a warning sign. I
Mm.
could listen to my body,
Yes.
or I could go against the grain and find
Yes.
myself in a hospital, or walking towards
Mm-hmm.
a heart attack or a stroke. So that was my big indicator. Even like now, if I get a little bit like my chest, I'm like, oh nope, all right, let me go turn
Okay.
some motivation audit. I'm good,
Okay.
but gratitude, I'm good.
Okay. I do
Yeah.
the same thing, Sharmane. When I start to feel like my body is getting, if I'm stressed about something, immediately I'll stop and be like, nope.
Yeah.
I had to learn to stop giving permission
Yeah.
to toxicity in my life. And I realized that When I started to do that, no, you can't talk to me like that. No, I can't listen
Yeah.
to you, keep dumping garbage on me, because when you do that, it weighs me down. I was not, and as I went from being the toxic person to just listening to toxic stuff, and I
Mhm.
started being the garbage can. And then what happened was I was still stressed, and I was always
Right.
like, always afraid. Oh my God, my chest.
Yeah,
Now
our body tells us. If
our
it's too
body
much,
tells.
our body will tell us. But then you have to stop fighting that pride of that's how I am. Remember, I talked about that earlier.
Ooh,
That's just
yeah.
how I am. That's
Ooh.
how it is.
That's how
We
my
don't stop
family
until
is.
we
This
end up
how
in the
we run
hospital.
stuff. This how
Right.
we do stuff. Yeah.
Right, right. And we don't stop till we end up in a hospital or with
Mm.
cancer. And that's another thing. Like people that have cancer, but they say, oh, they ate such healthy, they live such a healthy lifestyle. But it's like when you think of lifestyle, a lifestyle is a holistic thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lifestyle. That's why a diet is a diet and a lifestyle is a lifestyle. Because when you take a lifestyle in consideration, that's holistic factors, that's environmental,
Mm-hmm.
social, all of these
Mm-hmm.
things. But just
Mm-hmm.
because one is right, they all have to be in alignment. They all have to be in a source of alignment. It's so easy to blame someone else. When we get to that
Mm-hmm.
point, I would have never if you didn't, instead of taking accountability for the role that we allow. That's in relationships. That's with anything. A relationship is a reflection of who you are because you're the one also doing the choosing. You're choosing to stay or you're choosing to go.
Wow. Are
So
you
you have
guys
to get
enjoying this? I mean, this is really amazing. You guys have for those of you that are just joining, I'm here with international herbalist, holistic and wellness coach Sharmane Harrison, and we have been having an amazing discussion just talking about detoxing people and being able to detox your mindset. And it's so important, guys, that even though we're having fun with it and we're sharing our testimonies of things that we've gone through, it's the most important thing I want you to take from this is that you can't really say that you're healthy until you're emotionally healthy and until you're physically healthy, because it's you can eat all the right stuff and still have a toxic mindset and still see just you'll get some temporary results. But what the things that Sharmane is sharing with us is that detoxing your mind requires you have to be intentional. You have to be intentional with the people that are around you. You have to be intentional with the things you allow into your mind and into your ear. You can't just allow people to speak things over you and say things over you, and be okay with it, because even though you might think, oh, I don't care, that's just them expressing themselves. But eventually, over time, it gets into your mind, eventually, and then it goes into your subconscious mind. So it's important for you to make sure that you are not just a good steward over your body, but be a good steward over your mind.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And then another thing is we want to vent to those who are going to cradle us instead of the one who is going to tell us the truth or contribute to our overall health. Sometimes we
Mm.
don't understand the
Ooh,
concept of
that's good.
outgrowing people. We
Mm.
don't you don't understand that
Mm.
concept. It's okay. A lot of us look at individuals like, oh, that's my
Mm.
day one. That person been there for me that's my ride or die. We've been through A, B, and C. That's awesome. However, that person that you were and that mindset that you had at 15 and 16 shouldn't be the mindset that you have at 25 and 26. It shouldn't be the mindset you have at 45 and 46.
I'm telling you,
It,
I love having people around me. That's why I always say I'm not really accepting applications for new friends. And my best friend always laugh at me because I have people that are in my circle. I realize you don't have to have everybody in your circle.
exactly.
You can have people that are around you that where you can benefit from their life. They can benefit from the value of your life, and you contribute to each other in terms of personal or business. But when it comes to my circle, I am
Mhm.
good with the people that are in my circle, because the people that are in your inner circle feed you. They
Exactly.
and you eat from them, and it's where you're your most vulnerable. And you
Mhm.
can't be vulnerable around everybody. You can't allow yourself to be vulnerable, because some people will take your vulnerability and use it for themselves. I've had a situation
Exactly.
recently, just allowed myself to be completely vulnerable and was completely just just take it for granted. And it almost literally devastated me. Literally, had I not had to pull myself together and be like, okay, girl, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Get yourself to, you got to talk, like you said, you got to talk to yourself in the mirror and be like, get yourself together, girl. Get yourself together. This is not who you are. This is something that happened to you. This is not who you are.
Yeah, and then the people around you are not growing, then with you, it is what it is. That's how I look at it. I know, I've had people, you switched up, you changed, you can't relate anymore. Guess what? I sure don't. I sure can't, and I'm fine with that. And I wear that as a badge of honor. That's something you should wear as a badge. I sure don't. I can't. Sure can't relate no more. No, sorry. And this part is so crucial. This goes into the repairing part. I talked about the cleansing, the cleansing of the mind. I talked about the detoxing of the people. Now this goes into the repairing, that third phase. No one switched up. It's the fact that I don't operate at that level any longer. It's the fact that I learned to forgive and you did not. It's the fact that I overcame limited beliefs and I know I can, I know I can do better for my life. And you haven't reached that yet, and that's fine. Because I never say you're not on my level. You haven't reached that yet, but you're still a work in progress. I've gotten to a point, that I no longer operate with a victim mindset. I realize that I can overcome and put in the work to do so on a day-to-day basis. But in the meantime, understand I don't love you any less, and I wish you the best.
I don't love you any less, but I wish you the best.
I don't love you any less, and I wish you the best.
You're trying to sound like Sean with these songs now. I don't love you less, but I wish you the best.
Right, but I got some healing I need to
with
do.
that right there. I'm telling you.
That's experience, though. That's some real stuff. That's it. That has happened to me even recently. I'm like, listen, you get to a level where you switched up. You didn't this. I sure am not. But that doesn't mean I love you any less. And that's so serious. And I definitely, we go through a moment where I had to be a little lonely to do some self-reflection, without all the extra noise, to figure out who I am and what I wanted. And that is part of the repairing process. Once you do that, your tribe will come. Most of us operate at a level where we're scared to be alone because the silence is too loud. I remember that feeling. I was laying down and, I got to be drunk at night because, in order to sleep, I got to be drunk so I don't hear my thoughts. That's what it sneaks up on me.
That's good. Talk about that.
This is experience.
That's powerful right there. That's powerful.
When I was going through my environment was toxic. My job was toxic. I'm toxic to myself. Everything is just crashing down. The anxiety, depression, the suicide, all this stuff is like when I lay down that night. No, this is too quiet. Because you start to think about everything. You start to think about everything and it bothers you. You start to think about that person that you really are. It's that self-reflection of it.
That's deep.
It's too loud. It's too loud. Ooh. So you got to lay up under somebody else at night, or you got to go get drunk, or you got to party all night till you crash, or you got to put whatever substance in your body in order to get to a point where you don't hear it, you black out. That was me. Ooh. That used to be me. That was me.
To the point to where you can't even be by it. That's scary. That's a scary place to be when you don't even want to be around you. When you don't even that's scary because you are you are a reflection of yourself. So if you don't even like being around you, oh my gosh, I don't want to be around you either.
Right. Look, we gotta go call so-and-so. We gotta do this. We gotta go do that because I can't. Like that's the place where I was at, and that's the place where I pull myself from, and that's why I teach, holistic health and wellness in the first part of my program, Heal by Nature program. The H stands for habits. That's the first step, is taking self accountability for your actions that have contributed to where you are right now. You have to make sure you do that. And I had to do that on my journey, and I teach others how to do it also. It's called self-reflection, but a lot of people are scared of that. They have an issue, they want a solution. You put the solution in front of them, and they don't take it because they're too busy self-sabotaging. Why it may not work for them. Wow. Even with the testimonials in front of them.
Wow.
But that's basically it. The cleansing process is the internal work that you have to do for yourself. That's the emotional. The detoxing part process is the work that you have to do around you, and you can mental and social. The repairing process where you begin to take self accountability and you put action behind it so that you can transition effectively into a physical, into that other stage of cleansing. The physical part that I spoke about in part one. Could you imagine trying to go through the process of cleansing, detoxing, and repairing, but you got to go home to a toxic environment or a toxic job, or you constantly telling yourself, I can't do this, and you worried about everything up under the sun? You won't be able to stick to it. You will keep quitting. You will keep making excuses for why it's not going to work, and you won't be able to begin. So that is why I begin my course the way I begin my course. And it's not, and I tell people all the time, this is not a diet. This is a lifestyle change this is a transformation of your whole life. So that's what it takes sometimes. That's what it took for me, myself, and that's what it takes. Because I couldn't imagine trying to do one and not do the other. Or do this and not do that. That's why I believe in looking at things from a holistic perspective, because again, you can't do one without the other.
That's amazing, Sharmane. I'm really enjoying this. I mean, we are really getting in a flow. Are you guys enjoying this? I mean, put it in the comments if you are enjoying listening to Sharmane. If you have any questions for Sharmane in terms of health, make sure you visit her website at www.healbynature.org and set up a discovery call and let her help you to be able to detox and cleanse and repair your mind and your body so that you can be able to stay on the track if you are already on it, or get on track to getting yourself back to where you should be so that you can fulfill whatever your purpose is. It's hard to fulfill your purpose when you are not at your best emotionally, physically, and spiritually. It's difficult. It's tough. I don't care how many times one thing I've learned is that you have a lot of people that have a lot of money, make a lot of money, and they are at the top level of success financially, but they're emotionally broke. They are emotionally depleted. And you have to make sure that above all things, the Bible says, brethren, I wish above all things that you be in health, that you be in health, even as your that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. Your soul is your mind, will, and the emotions. There are always going to be things that are going to be contending for your heart, contending for your mind, contending for your will, contending for your emotions. And you have to get better at being able to be a better picker. You have to fix your picker, is what I call it. You have to fix your picker. You have to learn how to pick and choose your battles. You have to know how to decide what I'm going to deal with and what I'm not going to deal with. You have to, if you don't do those things, then what happens is you live a life where people just run over you, and you allow yourself to be burnt before you even have the ability to even see what you really like. I don't know about you guys, but I am constantly trying to discover the new parts of Nadira. I like the sound of that. I'm always trying to figure out what I'm going to be like in this season, what I'm going to be like in the next season. And that all depends on what goes on in here.
Yeah.
If I don't take time to feed my mind, if I don't take time to feed to manage my emotions, then guess what? I'm going to be all over the place, and I'm going to live a life miserable, and I might be taking all the right regimens, but I'll be healthy and sick. I'll be healthy and miserable. Who wants to live like that? I know I don't. I know I don't. Any final words for us, Sharmane, before we end the broadcast?
No, you hit the nail on the head. I do want to laugh about something though, because Facebook be quick to remind you what you said. Facebook be quick to remind you the person that you was, and that actually motivates me. Now I can laugh because potty mouth. I look at the reminder 10 years ago, 15. I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow. Oh God. I don't think nobody had a potty mouth like me. Oh gosh.
Oh my. Yes. And I sit and I said, well, thank God for growth. That's all I can say about that. I say thank God for growth. But
thank God for growth. Jesus. Oh my God. When I look back, I'd be like, I was so embarrassed because I did it in front of the whole staff, the little cubicle. I was like, oh my God. But you know what? It was built up because I remember being frustrated as a child because I've always been I've been frustrated as a teenager because I've always been this type of girl where I don't like, I never, the limiting beliefs that try to take over my mind didn't come from me. It came from my surroundings and things that were constantly being spoken over me. And so what I started to realize, I was getting frustrated. So it's like, if you told me I couldn't do something, oh, we're gonna fight tooth and nail, and I'm gonna prove to you that I can do it. And I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna make sure you see that I did do it. And now I realize is that what good is it to prove? The only person you need to prove success to and prove that you're at peace is you need to just prove it to yourself. Because at the end of the day, people come and go. People come and go. People come in your life, they take what they want and they go on and move on with their life. And you have to learn how to just say, you know what? Okay, we not finna do this here, because guess what? Eventually you're gonna leave, or eventually you're gonna go and do something else, and I can't have you depleting me, of all of, and then I have to struggle and I have to get around my circle of close friends and family to help build me back up again, because I don't let you strip. Even family, there's even some family you have to detox from, because sometimes family, they the ones you get access to the poison faster. Sometimes with family, and sometimes you just have to just be able to say no and still walk in love. It doesn't mean that I like what Sarah Jake said. I was watching a podcast that she did, and she was on this lady's podcast, and she said sometimes you have to just learn how to deal with the pieces that are left in your life, and you just have to learn how to start over with the piece with what you have. And so sometimes when life has caused you to just have breaking you down, and you've had experiences that are not the most favorable, and things that happen in your life that you wish you can go back and change, guess what? Take the pieces that you have left and build something new with it. Build something new with it, because guess what? We all have things that we can look back and be like, I can look back at my life. Shoot, heck, I ain't got to look far. I ain't got to look back that far and be like, oh, God, I know that you have done some things with me, because I have seen, and that's why I made a post. I just made a post earlier today, and I said, I am glad I'm grateful for every experience that made me who I am, because I can see my growth. I think it's a horrible thing when you can't see in the last 10 years the change that you've made. If you're the same person 10 years, you are the most miserable person in the world. If you are the same person after 10 years, you are miserable. If you don't have any growth. And it's shame on you, because sometimes you ain't tired yet. When you get tired enough of going through bad relationships, you'll start being better at being healthy yourself, so that when people approach you or come to you, you don't have to you can't help who you attract, but you can definitely control who you entertain.
Yes, exactly.
Some people shouldn't even have a conversation with you. Some people, family, friends, relationships, some people shouldn't even have a conversation with you. Some people you should have just not even waved to. Some people you should have just gave them a wave and said bless you. And then some people you should have just been like, and then there's some people you walk away from that you should have entertained, and that you should have, because each of us have something to impart into the people that come in the midst of us for whatever reason. Whether it's
in your life
a period or a lifetime. And you have to be able to know, you have to be healthy enough. I did a broadcast some months ago, and I was talking about the healthy woman, and knowing, the characteristics of a healthy woman. And so I encourage you guys, if you haven't done it, go on YouTube, Becoming a Woman of Proverbs, and look at that video I did on character traits of a healthy woman. When you get healthy, you make healthier choices in your life, your business, your relationships, and in your health. You just do. You just do. I may have not realized when you pinched me the last time. I just probably had to deal with you pinching me because you was my mom. I had to deal with you pinching me. But when I got older, I didn't have to deal with somebody else who wasn't my parent and pinching me. So, you start pinching me. I can tell you I don't like that. You can't pinch me. No, I'm sorry. And like you said, remove yourself from the environment. No, you can't. I can't let you take advantage of me. I can't let you just come and just think you just going to treat me any kind of way and move on. I'm sorry, I can't do that, because I love the person that I'm becoming, and I love the boundaries that I have set before me, and I'm constantly having to to look at those boundaries, and look at and constantly reflect and say, okay, are your boundaries, are you maybe you need to bring those boundaries in a little bit more. If you know that your mind is struggling to overcome a certain situation, you got to bring those boundaries in a little bit more. You got to get healed. so that
Mm-hmm.
you are not allowing just anybody to come in and just dump on you, or just allow anybody to come in and and inject you with poison.
Yeah, that's a part of breaking the cycle of generational illness and generational curses and things like that. Because once you get to a point, you have to put your pride away. Because especially when you have children, especially when kids are involved, because you don't want those cycles to continue.
Mm,
And it's
mm,
even worse when you have people,
right,
maybe growing up, our parents were unaware a lot of things.
right.
They were in survival mode because of the way, the whole mentality of, of those things. And they got to a point where you're at
Mhm,
a point where you may be aware, but if you're aware and you're still making those choices to raise your child the way you were raised, even though some things may have been toxic, then you
mhm,
have to you have to learn something different, because that's how it
mhm,
continues. That's how that cycle of generational curses continue. That's how, when I was a child, I was picked on about this and that and this, and I came
mhm,
out okay, and then your
mhm.
child get picked on, and oh well, that's a part of life. No, you can't continue that pattern.
Right,
You
right,
cannot.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. Guys, if again, you're just joining us, I'm here with international herbalist and holistic and wellness coach, Sharmane Harrison. So if you guys have been listening to us and enjoying the broadcast, make sure you send us some hearts and put in the comments. If you are watching replay, make sure you put in hashtag replay so that we know that you have been watching us. And make sure you visit Sharmane at www.healbynature.org if you want to learn more the about healing in from the mind, body, and spirit. Sharmane has also introduced recently, for those of you that follow Sharmane, has now introduced also a new subscription for those that Sharmane, you want to talk to us about your subscription in terms of you have some where you give tips, health daily health tips or weekly health
Yes.
tips. Talk to us
Yes.
about that.
Definitely. So I have a newsletter monthly subscription. If you go on the website www.healbynature.org and you go to subscribe, it'll actually come up, and then you'll receive the emails. But the monthly subscription is basically those of you who are like, I want to join your program, or I want to, start my journey. I don't know where to begin. Those monthly subscriptions basically give you tips on what
Mhm.
can be done on a day-to-day basis, what I've done in my journey, and then what you can implement also. So every month you'll be
Mhm.
receiving like just natural tips. You can also go over to the my Instagram at Charmaine_Q, and the link to register for the upcoming monthly subscription for 1 August is inside the bio also, if you are on Instagram. Or you can also make sure you go on the website and subscribe. At the very bottom of the page, you'll be able to put your email address in, and then you'll receive further information on it. But yes, so if you're looking to start your journey, but you're not ready to make that full commitment, that full investment, I do have a monthly subscription. I also do monthly online workshops too also.
All
So make
right.
sure you follow me. Make sure you definitely follow me, reach out to me, and then we can do a discovery call and we can talk about where you're at and how I can help you get to where you want to be.
Absolutely awesome. You've heard it from the specialist herself. And if you are watching and you have been a part of the Women of Proverbs Wisdom Clinic, thank you so much for your support in your daily and weekly support. Thank you for supporting the Sisterhood Check-in. I definitely appreciate it. If you I also talking about subscription. If you are interested, I did a video earlier on where I also have a subscription, a self-care subscription club, where if you are interested in receiving monthly subscription where you receive beauty products and all things health and wealth, make sure you inbox me at Woman of Prov if you are interested, and I can go ahead and get you signed up so that you can be able to get it. It's not that much, guys. It's $31 a month. $31 a month, you get a box every month where you can be able to have everything as far as samples. You guys, there's so many different I've seen there's so many different types of boxes out here where you can go where you get all kinds of makeup and stuff. Why not have something pertaining to your spiritual and your health and your well-being? So make sure if you're interested, make sure you go to make sure you send me an inbox at the at handle Woman of Prov on Facebook and Instagram if you're interested, or you can reach out to me at becoming a woman of proverbs at gmail.com, and we can go ahead and get you set up for the monthly subscription. It's only $31 a month. I mean, that's nothing compared to the things that you're going to be getting that is going to help your spirit. It's going to help your soul. It's going to help your healing. We get busy doing so many things. Sometimes you have to get busy taking care of yourself. And I want you to start with you. So thank you guys for watching. Until next week, like I just said, just like hurt people, transform people can transform people too. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a wonderful day.